Welcome to Be the Programmer, where we learn real-world skills and build real-world projects to help you become the programmer that stands out. Before we get started, the courses in the description below is going to help you take what we've learned here today, practice it by building real-world projects. So be sure to check it out and let's get started. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about 10 things about React 19 that separates juniors from seniors. As you know, before we get started, we're going to start with a pop quiz. Remember to keep your answers in the comment section below. Question number 1. What can the new use hook do that other hooks can't? Question number 2. How do actions replace your manual loading and error states? Question number 3. What does the React compiler mean for use memo? Again, remember to keep your answers in the comment section below. Let's get started. Number 1, the use hook reads promises and context. So the use hook breaks the rules that other hooks must follow. Unlike every other hook, use can be called conditionally and inside loops. It reads a resource, a promise, or a context and integrates with suspense, letting components consume async data declaratively. So it can be called conditionally, that's 1. Number 2, it unwraps promises and works with suspense. Number 3, it also reads context like use context. Let's take the code example on the left. So the use unwraps a promise during render. Suspense shows a fallback until it resolves. Let's take the component profile. As you can see, it takes a promise, user promise. Using the use hook, we can call user promise and get the data user. We can then make use of the user data inside the component. We can also use it to read context. So as you can see, use, we're reading this context, team context, and it gives us the team data. Okay, number 2, async updates without manual states. So let's look at the old way, which is the code on the left. As you can see, things are hardwired when you have a pending or error state. We have 2 states. In this case, we have the loading state and the error state, and we then have to manage them manually. So let's look at this async function, submit. As you can see, we have to set loading to true in this case. We try something. In this case, we try to save. We catch the error, and we then manually update the state again. So thanks to React 19 actions, this is how things now look. So using the use action states, we can then still call our async function, right? We can await the save, and we just return the status. And then automatically, we're going to get the state, the action, and the pending status. We can also then use this in our form components. Okay, so as you can see on the left is same boilerplate that we've been doing in every form. So we're going to keep repeating ourselves. While on the right, thanks to React 19 actions, we get the pending, results, and errors states handled. Actions are async functions React manages for you. Use action state tracks pending, status, and results. So the form action wires submissions directly. So the loading and error dance that we've been doing all this while is no longer needed because we then write it in every component. Okay, number 3, useFormStatus reads the parent form. So child components read submission states directly. So thanks to useFormStatus, it lets any descendant of a form read its pending state without the need to prop drill, which is just basically passing prop down. So a reusable submit button can disable itself during submissions, no matter which form is dropped into. So number 1, no need for prop drilling of pending states for the button. Number 2, we can easily build reusable form-aware buttons. Number 3, we can read the nearest enclosing form. Okay, let's take a look at the code on the left. So a button deep inside the form can know if that form is submitting without any props. So let's take this component, submit button. In here, we have the useFormStatus hook, which we get the state pending, and then we get the button that we can then use that pending state to set the disabled value. So we can then say if it's pending, show saving, else show save. Okay. Number 4, useOptimistic shows the result early. So we show the expected outcome before the server replies. useOptimistic hooks lets you render the anticipated results immediately while the async action is still running. If it succeeds, the real state takes over. If it fails, React rolls back, giving us a chat-like instant UI for free. So number 1, optimistic UI without manual rollback. Number 2, it's great for things like likes, sends, and toggles. Number 3, we reconcile automatically on resolve. Let's take a look at the code on the left. So as you can see, using the useOptimistic hook was reading the messages, we get the optimistic, right, which is what we expect, and then we get the function add optimistic. So let's take this async function. In this case, is a send function, and we want to send this text. So we can add optimistic, right, the text we want to send, and what we expect. So we say sending through. Then we can await the post message of the text, and the real state replaces the optimistic one. So we're going to set the value to what we expect, and if it fails or if it goes through, this real state will automatically update. So messages appear instantly. This is the case if this was a messaging application, and then it settles. Number 5, no more forwardRef. So now function components receive ref like any other prop. The wrapper is no longer needed and it will be deprecated. A ref callback can return a cleanup function just like an effect. And existing forwardRef code will still work, but is advised to migrate gradually. So a quiet quality of life win, which is a big improvement for React. Passing ref through components is no longer a needed ceremony that we have to do anymore. So we can accept ref as prop, we can forward it, and we're done. Callback refs returning cleanups also make observers and measurements tidier. Okay, number 6, render title and meta anywhere. So the metadata lives with the component that owns it. React 19 natively supports the title tag, the meta tag, and the links rendered anywhere in the tree. Hoisting them into the document head, much of what required a helper library is now built in. So this is a big improvement. So we don't need any extra library for basic metadata. We can now collocate SEO tags with your page. Also, we can handle style sheet and async script hosting. Okay, let's look at the code on the left. We can put metadata right in the component. React hoist it into the head. So we have this component article. It takes a prop post and we return an article tag. In there, we have the title. We also have the meta tag, which takes a name, which is just description, and the content, which is the excerpt from the post. As you can see, we have the meta tag right in the component. So this is a big improvement. Number 7, memoization is now done automatically. This is really good. So a build time compiler that auto memoizes components and values. Most manual use memo, use callback, and memo that we had to write before now becomes unnecessary. Rolling out opt-in for many code bases at stabilizers. So this is something you should gradually incorporate. Understanding identity will help you read code and debug the output better. Okay, so knowing which React you're using and how the code was written is what we would need to focus on right now. So the big shift. The compiler analyzes your component and inserts the memoization you used to write by hand. The scale move from where do I sprinkle use memo to understand what the compiler does. So again, knowing which React you're running will help you understand what the compiler is doing. So with this, we're going to be able to write cleaner code and follow the rules of the component. Number 8, data fetching moves out of useEffect. So promises plus suspense replaces the effect dance. Combined with several components and the use hook, data flows as promises that component unwraps declaratively. The classic fetch in useEffect set tree piece of state pattern is increasingly unnecessary in React 19 apps. This is a big improvement because we have less manual loading and error states to manage. The suspense plus error boundary do the work, and it pairs naturally with server components. Let's take a code example on the left. As you can see, the old way where we'll have to fetch in an effect, then juggle the states. So as you can see, we have the use effect, we have the function, which fetches something, and then we have to set the data, which is the old way of doing things. Thanks to React 19, we can then do things this new way, where we pass a promise and we read it using the use hook. So as you can see, the page component, it takes the data promise as a prop. We use the use hook to read the data promise and get the data. With suspense, we can then handle the loading and errors, and the boundary handles the failure. Okay. Number 9, old habits that React 19 makes obsolete. So let's compare the left and the right. So on the left, we needed forwardRef wrappers everywhere. On the right, we have the ref as a normal prop. On the left, which is the old way, we have use memo, use callback by reflex. On the right, we let the compiler memoize for us automatically. In the old way, we have manual loading and error states to manage. Thanks to React 19, we have actions plus the use action state. In the old way, use effect for every data fetching. In the new way, we have the use hook plus suspense to manage data. In the old way, a library just to handle metadata and title tags. Thanks to React 19, we can now render title and meta tags directly in the component. So as you can see, this is a big improvement. The meta lesson we're going to take away from this is a lot of senior React knowledge was walking around missing primitives. But React 19 fills those gaps. So the senior move now is knowing which old pattern to stop reaching for. Okay. Number 10, React 19 by what it replaces. So we've kind of talked about this, but let's go through it again. As you can see, async data plus use hook plus suspense is going to retire fetching in useEffect. Form submissions plus actions plus use action states is going to retire the manual need to handle the pending and error states. Instant UI and useOptimistic, right, is going to retire hand-rolled optimistic plus rollbacks. Passing refs as props, is going to require the need for forwardRef. Re-render tuning, the React compiler, is going to retire most manual memoization. So the rule is learn the new primitives and drop the old workarounds. Okay, as you know, we always end with the cheat sheets. You can pause the video and read it again. These are the things we've covered in the video. And as usual, this is just one lesson from our React course. I really encourage you to check the description box below and sign up for one of our courses where we're going to take the knowledge we've learned in these videos and put it to practice by building real-world projects. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, thank you for watching, but here's the hard truth. Mastery doesn't come from just watching tutorials. They come from practice. That's why our courses focus on building real-world projects with the skills we learn here. So at the lowest price, you can enroll today and check them out. Thank you.